there's not a whole lot of conferences and discussions around forums. They aren't really the sexy side of social media. They don't have a cool catchphrase like Facebook or Twitter. But they are the original social media. They've been around since, I suppose, the late 70s. You could really describe them as the basic bulletin board systems, and they've really kind of grown and evolved since then. But there's still a hell of a lot of value still left in forums as an online space. And I'd like to take you today through, thanks very much, some of the things that vBulletin, what we do as a company, and what we're planning on doing in the future with forums, and how we can hopefully make it a better tool for hopefully most of you in the room as customers, but also potentially for advertisers and other individuals that may interact with forums. I'd also ask if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them throughout the presentation, and if you need help translating the Australian into English, let me know. Okay. So this is the basics of what I'm hoping to run you through today. vBulletin, what is it? How can you, as forum owners, get the most from the software, and how you can scale your forum business as it kind of hits that proverbial tipping point and starts to become the snowball, and how can you manage it so that you're not spending 120 hours a week posting on your site, managing it, answering phone calls from angry customers. I'm going to take you through what vBulletin and forums in general, how it compares to Facebook and other forms of social media, and what we have planned for the future. So, hopefully I can get this video to play very briefly. So, vBulletin, what is it? I'll skip the video, it's okay. But essentially what I was going to take you through is vBulletin is, well, around about 100,000 thriving online communities full of enthusiasts that share every different form of passion. It doesn't matter whether it's a community about cars, whether it's about knitting. It doesn't matter the passion, the interest. It could be a very local-based community. You know, one I discovered not that long ago was Dallas-Fort Worth area single mums. So it can be extremely specific and targeted. And the value of this is, if you sat down in the 70s, 80s, even the 90s, in a room full of marketers, and you said, you can hit your audience right on the head. It doesn't matter what product you sell, there's a community and a group of enthusiasts out there that all they do is speak about your product and are interested in it. They'd show you, here's our bag full of cash, we'd like to give it to you. Selling them a concept of a forum, as Justin kind of mentioned, can be a little bit difficult because it isn't as sexy as the likes of Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to take you through how you, as forum owners, can hopefully get the most from your product. First, have a strategic objective. What do you want from your community? Is it just going to be a passion? Something that you can share, kind of your enthusiasm for a product, for a concept, whatever? Or are you hoping to make this into a more commercial enterprise? And if so, what is that commercial enterprise? Do you plan on just selling advertising through it? Do you plan on essentially building your community up till it is like the evolving beast and then flipping it and selling it to a company like, you know, our parent company, Internet Brands, or Vertical Scope, or a number of other companies are out there that are interested in purchasing these communities? If you have that kind of goal in mind, make sure you've got that end game. The second, choose your site carefully in terms of what you'd like it to be. As Ray kind of touched on earlier, there may be lots of competitors in your market space. Understand it. See if you can niche yourself, if you will. Make sure that whatever you're discussing, people will be interested and engaged in the topic. creating a forum about the Ford Pinto Owners Club, for example, may not get a whole lot of enthusiasts. Well, it may get a lot of people who will share their misery there. But make sure that you select that incredibly carefully, including the domain name. Think about the SEO value that it may potentially have. You may need to obviously steer clear of particular brand names for trademark purposes, but take that into strong consideration. When you're running your forum, make sure you maintain what I'd like to call the minimum viable product. And what I say about that is always take into consideration the operational overhead of anything that you may add to your forum. And I'm saying things like, potentially a software plugin, or any additional service that you may provide. How is that going to impact your time? And what happens if suddenly your forum and website grows 10,000 times? Can you do this 5-minute task over 10,000 times each week? And I'm also going to take you through marketing. The concept of pushing and pulling is a very old school marketing tactic, but I think it's really relevant in forums. And how to go about that. Pushing your website out to the market is really utilizing things, in particular SEO, but obviously social media is now a very pervasive means in which you can get your message across, even leveraging other forums as well. I really liked the story Ray shared earlier about the custom-made avatars. That's a really subtly unobtrusive method in which you can get your brand and your website through a number of different communities and instances on the web. Pulling people to your website. Content is king. It doesn't matter, you need to make sure that your website is going to be the go-to source for whatever content it is about the topic that you'd like to discuss. Create the best user experience you possibly can. And what I say about that is make sure that you've thought about the community and that it's going to be engaging for them. Things like the navigation and layout of your site is well thought out. Make sure that if people land on your website, it's going to be a pleasant experience. Hopefully they'll come back, and hopefully they'll tell some of their friends to come back. There were numbers thrown up earlier about how many people who are on forums, how much they communicate with their friendship group. It's not just about the products, it's about your website itself. Make sure that you can make sure that's a positive message. So here's the basic rundown. And as I said, make your site the source. Even if you haven't generated the content, even if your users haven't generated the content, make sure it's there for them. So let's say you own an automotive forum. Subscribe, say, to GM's YouTube list. If they put up great content, put it up on your site. Make sure that it doesn't matter what it is, they're going to find it through your website. Now, how you can scale your website. From the people here in the room who actually run a forum, how many people host it themselves? Hands up. Okay, so probably about half of you. How many people use a managed host? Okay, cool. So this is something that you're going to have to take deep into consideration because it's typically going to be your biggest cost you're going to incur when you're running a forum. Who of the people that put their hands up, who would be interested, say, in a hosted version of vBulletin? Potentially, okay. So, as I mentioned, this is something that's going to be potentially your biggest cost, and I'm going to discuss a couple of things that hopefully you can utilize to minimize that cost where possible. One of the things, doesn't matter whether it's vBulletin, whether it's any other form of forum software, one of the biggest things that impedes forums is, particularly as it grows, is a query called search. We're sitting in the room owned by a company that obviously is pretty good at the concept of search. And they have hundreds of engineers that work on, fine-tuning the algorithms for search. This is obviously, potentially an issue on the forum side of things. Look into technologies such as Sphinx that are available for both vBulletin and other solutions. Usually the second largest query behind search is a forum display page. And this can potentially be reduced by limiting the thread time, the cutoff time. So you can go into your admin control panel and reduce the time that a thread is actually on that display page, so it will reduce the query length. Other things I'd really strongly recommend you looking into is things like caching. So in particular, Varnish with Apache and Lightspeed as caching technologies. Now, all of these words may not mean a whole lot. I'd encourage you to go to vBulletin.com. We've got some really great articles on how you can potentially implement those technologies on your website. And hopefully it can have a really strong impact in the bottom line in actually running your website.